With the Aspire Beta, you'll notice that when you double click on a hole type, you not only get capillary, which is what used to be the case, but you'll see some other options here. So there's the heat activated sampling point and the refrigerated unit. But what I want to talk about at the moment is this drop pipe. So a drop pipe is basically a bit like a capillary, but where it's using a regular pipe. And this is often used by running, say, a pipe above the ceiling and having drop pipes that then drop down to ceiling level. So if I select this here, you'll notice I get, because it is a normal pipe, I'll actually see a section underneath here that corresponds to, it's got an end cap, so all intents and purposes it looks like another pipe. Now there's something special about drop pipes, and that is they can, because they are very similar capillaries, they can use a mathematical, not really shortcut, but a way of expressing the equation that converges very quickly, and so we can have basically unlimited number of drop pipes. But drop pipes, even though they're based on the same components as a bend, as a branch, are different in that they only have one sampling point. As soon as I put another sampling point in here, put one there, you'll notice it changes to branch, and it goes grade, which means we no longer can, so go back up here, no longer can I toggle this back to being a hole. It's no longer acting as a sampling point because it's actually got two sampling points. And since you've got branches and not drop pipes, you've got a restriction of about 6 or 7 layers of branching, and after that we make no guarantees about the solution converging. So feel free to use lots of drop pipes, but be careful about using branches. So if we go back to here, we remove this hole. Let's just do that again, move that hole there. You'll see this now returns to being a drop pipe. We can have bends, we can have other components in there. As long as they're not sampling points, it'll still stay as a drop pipe. And you'll notice that if I change the end cap size here to say 2.5, this changes as well. But this is really just giving that essentially the hole that this is referring to is really the hole of the end cap. So just think of it as like a capillary. So if I were to toggle this to a capillary, you'd see that a lot of the features stay very similar. So just be aware that drop pipes are quite a useful thing, but they need to be treated as basically equivalent of capillary. You don't put more than one sample point in those drop pipes, and that includes the end caps. If you've got an end cap, you can't put any more holes unless you block up that end cap. And if we look at the 3D view, you will see that here's our drop pipe here. It just acts like, so if I to go back in here and we make this a drop pipe as well, you'll see, and let's just use our fill down to make these next two drop pipes as well, and you can see how we've turned these holes into just essentially small pipes with end caps on the end of them. And because they are just a sample point, then you can always go and swap them back to being a hole or turn them into a capillary. That they're all treated as being interchangeable. So there's one other subtlety with drop pipes, and that is if we go up here to our groups, if we create use end caps to reduce transport time, and we look at our groups, there's a default end cap group, but you'll notice that that these end caps here are associated with the drop pipe sample in that group, because the default end cap group, as you'll remember, is used purely not for sensing the smoke but just purely to speed up the transport, whereas the drop pipe end caps are being used as sensors, as sampling points, and so that's why we don't put them in this group here. So one thing to notice too is if I go and select something in this group, it appears in the table. So, and similarly, if I'm not quite sure what a row in the table corresponds to, I can click it here and I can see where it is in a 3D view. So both these things are linked. Anyhow, that should give you a bit of a feel of what drop pipes are about and how drop pipes differ from branches. And that's quite an important distinction to remember with Aspire Beta.